labeled the ugly dropout and cast out by my own family. 5 years later, we crossed paths again at my sister's graduation. Her professor turned to me and asked, "You know her?" I smiled and said, "You have no idea. They didn't recognize me until." What if the people who were supposed to love you unconditionally abandoned you completely, then tried to steal your entire future? 5 years ago, my own mother screamed, "You're nothing but an ugly college dropout. Don't you ever show your face again." But that wasn't the end of my story. Oh no. That was just the bitter, explosive beginning. I can still hear her words, sharp as shattered glass. "Nothing but an ugly college dropout. Don't you dare show your face in this family again." Then, the door slammed, shaking the very foundation of the house I grew up in, and my entire world. I just stood there, suitcase at my feet, the cold night air biting at my skin. Through the living room window, I watched my younger sister, Cassandra, laughing, utterly carefree, surrounded by our beaming parents. That was 5 years ago. I was 22. My name's Athena, and now I'm 27. Back then, I was the family embarrassment. The one who never measured up. Too plain, too ordinary, too much of a failure to ever deserve their love or support. Cassandra? She was everything I wasn't. Beautiful, smart, driven, their perfect golden child. Growing up in Nashville, Tennessee, I learned a harsh truth really early on: love in my family was always conditional. My parents, both ridiculously successful business owners, had these incredibly specific expectations for us. We had to be beautiful, accomplished, perfect representations of their status. Cassandra, bless her heart, she just fit right into that mold, effortlessly. Me? Not so much. I can pinpoint the exact moment everything started to crumble. I was in my 3rd year of college, totally immersed in graphic design. Oh, I loved it. Absolutely adored it. Creating art, playing with colors and shapes, watching my ideas bloom on a screen, it felt like magic. But my parents? They hated it. They wanted me in business or law, something prestigious, something they could casually drop into conversation at their fancy country club dinners. Graphic design is for people who can't do real work, my father scoffed when I told him my major. "You're just wasting our money on this nonsense." My mother was even worse. She'd never miss a chance to compare me to Cassandra, who, of course, was diligently studying pre-med. "Your sister is going to be a doctor, Athena." "What are you going to be?" "Someone who makes pretty pictures." Her voice dripped with disdain. Their constant criticism chipped away at me day by day. Every phone call home felt like an interrogation. Every visit was a lecture about my choices, my appearance, my entire future. They made it abundantly clear I was a disappointment. When I started struggling with depression and anxiety, their advice was to stop being dramatic. When my grades inevitably slipped, they threatened to cut me off financially. I tried so hard to push through, but the pressure became this suffocating weight. My mental health just crumbled. I stopped going to classes. I barely ate. I honestly just stopped believing I was worth anything at all. Then, one particularly dark night, I made the decision. I was leaving college. Not because I wanted to. Not because I was ready to. But because I genuinely couldn't see any other way out. When I told my parents, the explosion was immediate and deafening. My mother screamed at me for hours. How I'd embarrassed them, how I was throwing my life away, how I was too stupid to see what a mistake I was making. My father? He just looked at me with this chilling disgust, flat out stating I was no longer his daughter. And there was Cassandra, standing in the doorway, a faint smirk playing on her lips. She always loved watching me fail. It just made her shine brighter, didn't it? They gave me 1 week. 1 week to pack my life into a suitcase and disappear. No financial support. No place to stay. No family to fall back on. I was completely, utterly on my own. And I was terrified. For months, I couch surfed at friends' apartments, working any job I could find just to survive. Waitressing. Retail. Cleaning offices at night. Anything to keep my head above water. I felt like I'd hit absolute rock bottom, and there was no way back up. But then, something shifted inside me during those dark months. Maybe it was pure, raw anger. Maybe it was sheer desperation. Or maybe, just maybe, it was plain old stubbornness. But I made a decision. I wasn't going to let them define me anymore. I wasn't going to accept their version of who I was supposed to be. So, I took every single dollar I earned and saved it. I taught myself advanced design software, poring over free online tutorials. Late into the night, every spare moment, I was building a portfolio. I reached out to small businesses, offering to design their logos and websites for cheap, just to get experience. And slowly, agonizingly slowly, I started to build something of my own. It was not easy. There were nights I went to bed hungry, forced to choose between food and paying for internet access so I could work. Times I wanted to just give up, when that insidious voice in my head, the one that sounded suspiciously like my mother, whispered that I was foolish to think I could succeed without them. But I just kept going. And eventually, things did start to change. My work got better. My clients got bigger. My rates finally went up. I moved from couch surfing to a tiny studio apartment, then to a one-bedroom. From freelancing out of a coffee shop to starting my very own design agency. 5 years passed. 5 years of working myself to exhaustion, of relentlessly proving everyone wrong, of becoming a person I could actually be proud of. I'd cut off all contact with my family, changed my phone number, moved across the city. I wanted absolutely nothing to do with them anymore. Then, on a warm spring evening, a message popped up on social media. An old high school friend, inviting me to Cassandra's graduation party. My sister was finally finishing her medical degree, and apparently, the whole family was throwing this massive, extravagant celebration downtown. The invitation felt like a trap. Why on earth would they want me there after everything? But as I sat there, staring at the screen, something inside me shifted. A spark. Maybe it was time to face them. Not as the broken, desperate girl they'd thrown out, but as the woman I had undeniably become. I spent the next week agonizing over whether to even go. Part of me just wanted to ignore it completely. To keep living this peaceful life I'd built, free of their drama. I'd created something good without their help, without their approval. Why drag myself back now? But then another part of me spoke up. The part that still, deep down, wanted them to know I hadn't just survived without them. I had thrived. The party was set for a Saturday evening at one of Nashville's most exclusive venues. Of course, my parents would spare no expense for Cassandra. They loved showing off. Loved proving to everyone how successful they were, how utterly perfect their family was. So, I decided to go. Not because I craved their approval anymore. Not because I secretly hoped for some big, emotional reunion. No. I went because I wanted to look them dead in the eye, as an equal, and show them precisely what they had so carelessly discarded. The days leading up to that party were strange. My mind kept drifting back to my childhood, to memories I'd tried desperately to bury. I remembered being 8 years old, proudly showing my parents a drawing from school. My teacher had praised it, hung it on the wall, told me I had real talent. My mother barely glanced at it before telling me to do my homework. My father didn't even look up from his newspaper. I remembered being 13, overhearing my mother on the phone, complaining to her sister about how I wasn't developing as quickly as Cassandra, how I was destined to be the plain daughter, how she hoped I'd at least be smart enough to make up for my lack of looks. And at 16, winning my first design competition at school, rushing home bursting with excitement, only to have my parents completely brush it off because Cassandra had made the honor roll again. Every single memory hammered home the same message: I wasn't enough. I would never be enough. Not for them. But sitting there now, in my own apartment, paid for with my own hard work, surrounded by the success I'd built from absolute zero, something finally clicked. Their opinion? It just didn't matter anymore. I had proven myself to the only person who truly counted, myself. The evening finally arrived. I spent hours getting ready, not to impress anyone, but because I wanted to feel confident. I chose a simple, elegant black dress I'd saved for, did my makeup carefully, styled my hair. When I looked in the mirror, I saw someone strong looking back. Someone who had survived. The venue itself was even more extravagant than I'd imagined. Crystal chandeliers dripped from the ceiling, white flowers adorned every surface, a string quartet played softly in a corner. Servers, in crisp uniforms, drifted through the crowd with champagne and appetizers. It was exactly the kind of over-the-top, flashy display my parents adored. I arrived fashionably late, giving myself a moment to observe before anyone noticed me. The room was absolutely packed. I recognized a few faces from my childhood, extended family, old family friends, my parents' business associates. Everyone dressed to impress, everyone smiling, chatting, all there to celebrate Cassandra. My sister stood at the center of it all, in a stunning white dress, looking every inch the successful medical school graduate. She was laughing at something, her hand resting on a handsome man's arm, probably her boyfriend. My parents flanked her, beaming with unadulterated pride. A familiar, painful tightness squeezed my chest. That was supposed to be me. I was supposed to be the one they were so proud of. But I'd failed their expectations, and they'd discarded me like I meant absolutely nothing. I took a deep breath, steeling myself, and stepped further into the room. A few people glanced my way, but no one recognized me. 5 years was a long time. I was thinner now, more put together, I carried myself differently. The scared, depressed college dropout was gone. In her place stood someone who had learned to survive. Someone fierce. I made my way to the bar, ordering a glass of wine. As I waited, a familiar voice cut through the chatter behind me. "Athena? Is that really you?" I turned. It was Professor Howard, one of my favorite college teachers. He'd taught in the arts department, one of the only people who genuinely encouraged my design work before I dropped out. He looked older now, more gray, but his kind eyes were exactly the same. "Professor Howard," I said, genuinely surprised. "What are you doing here?" He explained, "I teach at the medical school now. Cassandra was one of my students. Brilliant girl, very driven." He paused, his gaze thoughtful as he studied my face. "I heard you left school. I always wondered what happened. You had such talent." His words hit me harder than I expected. Here was someone who had believed in me, who had seen my potential, and I'd just vanished. "I had some personal issues," I said carefully. "But I'm doing really well now. I own my own design agency." His face lit up. "Really? That's wonderful. I always knew you had it in you, Athena. Your work was exceptional, even back then." We talked for a few minutes, catching up. He seemed genuinely happy for me, which was more than I could say for almost anyone else in this room. As he excused himself to speak with other guests, I watched him go, grateful for his kindness, but also painfully aware of how isolated I felt, surrounded by people who were supposed to be my family and friends. I moved through the party like a ghost. People's eyes just slid over my face, no recognition whatsoever. 5 years is a long time, I guess. I'd been 22 when they last saw me, young and broken. Now I was 27, polished, confident. They didn't make the connection. I found myself near the dessert table when I heard my mother's voice. She was talking to a gaggle of women, all in designer clothes, all with that same practiced, tight smile. "We're just so proud of Cassandra," my mother gushed. Medical school was challenging, but she never gave up. She's always been so determined, so focused, unlike some people. The way she delivered those last 3 words, even without saying my name, made it crystal clear who she was talking about. A hot, sharp anger flared in my chest. "Yes, we're very fortunate," my father chimed in, joining the conversation. "Both of our daughters have done so well. Cassandra is going to be a doctor, and our eldest is very successful in business." I froze. What was he talking about? They had disowned me. They'd told me I was nothing. And now they were just lying to their friends, pretending everything was fine, pretending they were proud of me. One of the women in the group piped up, "Oh, I didn't know you had another daughter. Where is she? I'd love to meet her." My mother's smile became noticeably strained. "Oh, she couldn't make it tonight. Work commitments, you know how it is." The lie was so casual, so practiced. It made me wonder, how long had they been telling this story? How many times had they pretended I was still part of their perfect family image, when in reality they'd thrown me away like garbage. I wanted to march right over there and expose them. Right then. Right there. I wanted to announce to everyone that I was the daughter they were lying about. That they had cut me off, abandoned me, that their perfect family was nothing but a fragile facade. But something stopped me. Maybe it was self-preservation. Maybe it was strategy. Or maybe I just wanted to see exactly how far their elaborate web of lies went before I finally brought it crashing down. I decided to observe. To gather information. To understand the precise narrative they'd been selling to their social circle. I moved around the room, listening, picking up fragments of the story my parents had meticulously constructed. It quickly became clear. They'd told people I was working abroad, too busy with my successful career to attend family events, sending my regards, but conveniently absent. They'd created an entire, elaborate fiction where I was still their accomplished daughter, just not physically present. The realization made me sick to my stomach. They wanted all the credit for raising two successful daughters without having to actually deal with me. They wanted to maintain their pristine image without ever acknowledging that they had utterly destroyed their relationship with one of their own children. As I was doing this, I saw Cassandra break away from her group, heading towards a hallway leading to the private rooms. I followed, keeping my distance. She slipped into a smaller conference room. I waited a moment, then cautiously pushed the door open a crack. Cassandra was on her phone, her back to me. "I know, Mom," she was saying, her voice hushed. "I'm handling it." No one's asked about her specifically. Everyone totally buys the story about her working overseas. She paused, listening. What if she shows up? Mom, she doesn't even know about the party. We didn't invite her. Even if she found out, somehow, she wouldn't have the guts to come back after 5 years. My heart hammered in my chest. They were actively discussing keeping me away. This wasn't just casual lying anymore. This was a deliberate, calculated plan to exclude me and then lie about my absence. The trust fund, Cassandra continued. Yes, I spoke to the lawyer last week. Since she's been out of contact for so long, and there's documentation of her dropping out and cutting ties, we should be able to claim her portion was forfeited. It'll take some time, but he's confident we can make it work. I felt like I'd been physically punched in the stomach. My grandmother had set up trust funds for both of us before she died. I hadn't thought about it in years. I'd been too busy simply surviving. But my family? They'd been thinking about it. A lot. They weren't just taking credit for my success. They were actively, maliciously trying to steal money that was rightfully mine. Cassandra let out a little laugh at something my mother said. Don't worry, she made her choice when she dropped out. She chose to throw her life away. That money is better off with someone who actually did something with their education. Someone who made you proud. The words reverberated in my head. She chose to throw her life away. As if my mental breakdown had been a choice. As if their years of emotional abuse had played no part. As if I had wanted to struggle, to suffer, to fight for every scrap of stability. I backed away from the door, my hands shaking so violently I could barely hold my phone. But I had it. I had recorded the entire conversation. I had proof. Proof of their lies, their manipulation, their sickening plan to steal from me. I walked back to the main hall in a daze. Everything I thought I knew about this evening had just shifted. This wasn't just about them being embarrassed by my dropout status. This was about money. This was about them rewriting history, claiming my inheritance, and maintaining their perfect image, all at the same time. I needed to talk to someone. I needed advice. I pulled out my phone and texted Jordan, my business partner. He was the only person who knew the full, ugly story of my past. The message was simple: need legal help. Family trying to steal inheritance. Have recording of admission. What do I do? His response came almost instantly. Do not confront them yet. Leave the party. Meet me at the office tomorrow morning. Bring everything. We'll handle this properly. He was right. I needed to be strategic. But leaving now? It felt impossible. I had come here to face them, and I wasn't going to run away again. I steadied myself, took a deep breath, and walked back into the heart of the party. The evening was reaching its peak. My father was preparing to give a speech, and everyone was gathering around a small stage near the back of the room. I positioned myself near the edge of the crowd, where I could see everything, but remain relatively inconspicuous. My father climbed onto the stage, microphone in hand, flashing his most charming, practiced smile. "Good evening, everyone," he boomed. "Thank you all for coming to celebrate this momentous occasion. Tonight, we honor my daughter, Cassandra, who has worked tirelessly to achieve her dream of becoming a doctor." The crowd applauded enthusiastically. Cassandra stood beside my mother, looking radiantly happy. As a father, my dad continued, his voice thick with what sounded like genuine emotion. "There's nothing more rewarding than watching your children succeed. My wife and I have been blessed with two remarkable daughters. Both intelligent, both driven, both determined to make their mark on the world." I felt my jaw clench. He was doing it again. Pretending he was proud of me. Pretending we were this big, happy, perfect family. "Cassandra has always been focused and dedicated," he went on. "And tonight, as she celebrates her graduation from one of the finest medical schools in the country, we couldn't be prouder." More applause. I noticed Professor Howard in the crowd, watching with a pleasant expression. Dr. Gregory stood nearby, nodding along. "Our other daughter, Athena, couldn't be here tonight due to work commitments overseas," my father said smoothly, not missing a beat. "But she sends her love and congratulations to her sister. Athena has built a successful design business and travels extensively for work. We're proud of both our girls and the women they've become." The sheer ease with which he lied was staggering. He delivered these falsehoods with such conviction. For a fleeting second, I almost believed them myself. Almost. "Family is everything," my father concluded. "And tonight, we celebrate not just Cassandra's achievement, but the strength of family bonds that support us through life's challenges." "To Cassandra," the crowd echoed, raising their glasses. "To Cassandra." I didn't raise mine. I stood there, watching my father step down, embrace my sister, watching my mother wipe happy tears from her eyes, watching everyone celebrate this perfect, idyllic family moment, a moment built entirely on a foundation of lies. Professor Howard moved through the crowd and ended up near me again. "Lovely speech," he commented. "Though I'm surprised your sister couldn't make it. I didn't even know you had a sibling until tonight." I looked at him carefully. He seemed genuinely confused, not trying to trap me. "That's interesting," I said slowly. "Because I am his other daughter." Professor Howard's eyes widened. He looked from me to my father, then back to me. "I don't understand. He just said you were overseas." "He lied," I said simply. "I'm right here. I've been here all evening and no one in my family has recognized me because they haven't seen me in 5 years. Not since they disowned me for dropping out of college." The professor stared at me, processing. I could see his mind working, connecting the pieces that just didn't fit. "But he just said he was proud of you," he murmured. "He said you have a successful business." "I do have a successful business," I clarified, my voice gaining strength. "They just have no idea what I've been doing since they kicked me out. They've been making up stories about me to save face with their friends." Professor Howard looked genuinely shocked. "That's unconscionable. Why would they do that?" "Because they care more about their reputation than they do about me," I said, the words bitter, but oh so true. Before Professor Howard could respond, Dr. Gregory joined us. "Everything all right here?" he asked, sensing the tension. Professor Howard glanced at me, giving me the choice. I made a split-second decision. "Dr. Gregory," I said, "I need to be honest with you about something before we move forward with any business discussions." He looked intrigued. "Go ahead." "My full name is Athena," I began. "My last name is the same as Cassandra's because she's my sister. I'm the daughter my father just mentioned in his speech. The one he said was overseas." Dr. Gregory's friendly interest morphed into confusion. "I don't follow. You're here. You're not overseas." "Exactly," I said. "My father lied. He's been lying to everyone here about me. The truth is, my parents disowned me 5 years ago when I dropped out of college due to mental health issues. They cut me off completely. Told me never to contact them again. Pretended I didn't exist, until recently. When, apparently, they decided to start telling people I'm successful and busy with work overseas. They're using my real success, which they know absolutely nothing about, to make themselves look like good parents. Dr. Gregory looked from me to the stage where my father was still basking in congratulations, then back to me. This is a serious accusation. It's not an accusation, I countered, my voice firm. It's the truth. I pulled out my phone. I have a recording of my sister on the phone with my mother from earlier tonight. In it, they discuss how relieved they are that I didn't find out about the party and show up. They also discuss plans to steal my inheritance, claiming I forfeited it by dropping out and losing contact. Professor Howard's face had gone pale. Athena, this is terrible. I had no idea you'd been through such an ordeal. Most people don't, I said, because I've been focused on rebuilding my life, not airing my family's dirty laundry. But I came here tonight because I wanted to see them again. To face them as someone who had succeeded despite them, not because of them. What I didn't expect was to discover they've been lying about me for years and actively plotting to steal money that rightfully belongs to me. Dr. Gregory was quiet for a long moment, his gaze unwavering. Can you prove you are who you say you are? I pulled out my driver's license. My name, my birth date, my Nashville address. Everything confirmed my identity. I believe you, he said finally, his voice grave. And I'm appalled by what you've shared. However, I need to think carefully about how to proceed with our business discussions. This puts me in an awkward position, as your father is a respected colleague, and I've known your family for years. My heart sank. Of course. My family's reputation would win out over my truth. It always did. But Professor Howard spoke up, his tone respectful but firm. Dr. Gregory, Athena's family situation has nothing to do with her professional capabilities. I taught her in college before she left. Her work was exceptional then, and from what she's told me, she's only improved since. Punishing her professionally because her family is dysfunctional would be grossly unfair. Dr. Gregory considered this, then nodded slowly. You're right. Of course, personal matters shouldn't affect professional opportunities. Athena, I'll be in touch next week as planned. What your family has done is between you and them. Your work speaks for itself. Relief washed over me, a warm wave, but it was short-lived. Then I saw my mother, heading straight for us, her face arranged in a welcoming smile. She was bringing someone with her, probably to introduce to the dean. Dean Gregory, my mother called out, approaching. I wanted to introduce you to some of our closest family friends. She stopped short when she reached us, her eyes finally landing on me. For a second, a flicker of recognition crossed her face, then confusion, then something that looked like pure panic. Athena, she whispered, the color draining from her face. Hello, Mother, I said calmly, my voice steady. Lovely party, though I noticed I wasn't invited. My mother's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. She looked frantically at Dr. Gregory and Professor Howard, clearly trying to salvage the situation. What are you doing here? She finally managed, her voice tight with suppressed fury. I was invited by a friend, I said. Though, I've been here for over an hour now, and this is the first time anyone in my family has recognized me. Interesting, isn't it? My mother's eyes darted around nervously. People nearby were definitely starting to notice the tension. We should discuss this privately, she hissed, reaching for my arm. I stepped back, deliberately avoiding her touch. Why? You've been discussing me publicly all evening, telling everyone how proud you are, how successful I am, how I'm overseas working on my thriving business. Might as well keep it public, don't you think? You don't understand. My mother spat, her pleasant facade cracking completely. We were trying to protect the family. Protect the family? I repeated, my voice rising, loud enough that several people turned to look. Is that what you call disowning your daughter? Abandoning her when she was struggling with her mental health? Kicking her out with nowhere to go? You made your choice when you dropped out, my mother shrieked defensively. You threw away everything we gave you. What you gave me? My anger boiled over. You gave me criticism, comparison, and conditional love. And when I couldn't handle the pressure anymore, you threw me away like I was nothing. My father appeared then, drawn by the commotion. When he saw me, his face went through the same rapid progression, recognition, confusion, pure panic. Athena, he said, his voice carefully controlled, a dangerous undertone. This isn't the time or place for this discussion. Really? I shot back. Because you seem to have plenty to say about me in your speech, didn't you? All those lies about how proud you are, about my successful overseas business, about family bonds and support. Should we tell everyone the truth, Dad? Should we tell them you haven't spoken to me in 5 years? That you told me I was no longer your daughter? People were definitely watching now. The conversations around us had died down to a hush. Guests turned, craning their necks. I saw Cassandra pushing through the crowd, her face pale with alarm. Athena, please, my father pleaded, trying desperately to maintain composure. You're making a scene. I'm making a scene? I laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. You've been making up an entire fictional life for me. You've been using my real success, which you know nothing about, to make yourselves look like supportive parents, and now you're upset that I'm calling you out on it. Cassandra finally reached us, her eyes wide with shock. What's going on? Your sister decided to show up uninvited and create drama at your graduation party, my mother snapped. Just like her to try to ruin your special day. Uninvited. I turned to Cassandra, a predatory calm settling over me. Funny thing about that. I overheard your phone conversation earlier. The one where you told Mom how relieved you were that I didn't know about the party and wouldn't show up. The one where you discussed stealing my inheritance. Cassandra's face went utterly white. I don't know what you're talking about, she stammered. I pulled out my phone. I recorded it. Would you like me to play it for everyone here? Let them hear you and Mom plotting to claim I forfeited my trust fund. Let them hear you laugh about how I threw my life away. You're insane. Cassandra spat. You always were unstable and dramatic. I was struggling, I corrected her coldly, each word precise. I was depressed and anxious and desperate for help. And instead of supporting me, you mocked me. All of you did. You made me feel worthless until I believed it myself. Professor Howard cleared his throat, his voice cutting through the stunned silence. I think everyone here needs to hear something. I taught Athena in college. She was one of the most talented students I've ever had. When she left school, I was devastated because I knew she had incredible potential, but I also knew she was struggling with something deeper than just academic stress. He looked directly at my parents, his eyes piercing. A good family would have helped her through that struggle. Instead, from what I'm hearing tonight, you abandoned her when she needed you most. And now you're trying to take credit for her success and steal her inheritance. That's not family. That's exploitation. My father's face had turned a deep, furious red with anger and embarrassment. You have no right to judge our family decisions. You don't know the full story. Then enlighten us, Dr. Gregory said quietly, his gaze fixed on my father. Everyone turned to him. I'd very much like to hear your version of events, because right now, what I'm hearing paints a very troubling picture. The crowd around us had swelled. People were whispering, phones were out, some even recording. My parents' meticulously constructed image was dissolving into dust right before their eyes, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. My mother tried one last time to salvage the wreckage. Athena has always been troubled. We tried everything to help her, but she refused our support. When she dropped out, we were devastated. We gave her space, hoping she'd come back to us, but she disappeared. We've been searching for her for years. That's a lie, I said firmly, my voice unwavering. You told me never to contact you again. You changed your phone numbers. You made it clear I was dead to you. I didn't disappear. You erased me. And the only reason you're upset now is because I showed up and ruined the pretty story you've been telling everyone. Just then, Jordan, my business partner, appeared at my elbow. I hadn't even seen him arrive, but the sight of his familiar, steady face brought a wave of immense relief. He must have seen my location when I texted him and came running. Everything okay here? Jordan asked, though his tone made it clear he knew it wasn't. Jordan, I said gratefully. These are my parents. Parents, this is Jordan, my business partner. We run Athena Design Agency together. I then turned back to my father, a challenge in my eyes. Perhaps you'd like to see that portfolio Dad supposedly keeps in his office? Except, you can't. Because he doesn't actually have one. Because he has no idea what I've been doing for the past 5 years. Jordan pulled out his tablet and opened our agency's website. Athena Design Agency, he announced, turning the screen so everyone nearby could see. Founded 3 years ago. Currently employs 15 people. Annual revenue last year? Just over $2 million. And we count several Fortune 500 companies among our clients. He swiped through the portfolio, showcasing project after project. Sleek website designs, powerful brand identities, innovative marketing campaigns. All my work. All created without a single cent or ounce of support from my family. This is what Athena built after you threw her out, Jordan continued, his voice calm, but utterly cutting. She started with nothing. She slept on couches. She worked 3 jobs while teaching herself advanced design skills. She saved every penny until she could afford her own apartment. Then she freelanced until she had enough clients to start an agency. She did all of this alone. And she's been incredibly successful. My mother stared at the screen, her face unreadable. My father's jaw was clenched so tight I thought it might crack. Cassandra looked like she'd been slapped. $2 million. My father finally croaked, and I could hear the sheer greed in his voice, even through his shock. That's revenue, not profit, Jordan clarified. But yes, the business is quite successful. Athena is one of the most sought-after designers in Nashville. Which makes it particularly galling that you've been taking credit for her success, while simultaneously trying to steal her inheritance. We weren't stealing, my mother protested weakly, a desperate flutter in her voice. We were simply claiming what was rightfully ours after she abandoned the family. I have a recording that says otherwise, I reminded her, my voice sharp. Cassandra was very clear on the phone about the plan to claim I forfeited my trust fund. I'm sure a judge would be very interested to hear it. Professor Howard spoke up again, his voice now imbued with righteous anger. I think what's most disturbing here is the pattern of behavior. You didn't just kick Athena out when she was vulnerable. You've spent 5 years lying about her, using her success to bolster your own reputation, and now attempting to steal from her. This isn't a misunderstanding or a family disagreement. This is systematic abuse and fraud. Several people in the crowd nodded. I saw some of my parents' friends looking at them with expressions ranging from confusion to absolute disgust. Their carefully constructed image was dissolving into dust right before their eyes, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. Dr. Gregory addressed my parents directly, his face stern. I've known your family for several years. I've always respected you as colleagues and friends. But what I'm hearing tonight is deeply troubling. If even half of what your daughter says is true, you've behaved abominably. It's all true, I said firmly. Every word. And I can prove it. I have documentation of them cutting me off. I have the recording of Cassandra discussing the trust fund. I have witnesses who can testify to my mental state when they abandoned me. I have 5 years of building a life completely separate from them, with no support or contact. My father tried one last time to regain some semblance of control. Athena, you're being vindictive. Yes, we made mistakes. Yes, things were said in anger. But we're still your family. We can work through this privately. Now you want to be private? I asked, incredulous. After you publicly lied about me all evening? After you gave that touching speech about family bonds and being proud of both your daughters? You don't get to choose when to be public and when to be private based on what's convenient for you. Jordan leaned close, whispering, "The lawyer is here. I called him after you texted. He's waiting outside." I nodded and turned back to my parents, my gaze unwavering. Here's what's going to happen. Tomorrow morning, you're going to meet with my lawyer. You're going to provide complete documentation of the trust fund my grandmother left me. You're going to sign papers stating you have no claim to that money and will not attempt to interfere with my access to it. And you're going to do it quickly and quietly. And if we refuse, my father challenged, his voice tight with rage. Then I go to every single person here tonight, I said, my voice dangerously calm. I tell them the full story. I play them the recording of Cassandra. I provide them with documentation of everything you've done. I make sure everyone in your social circle, everyone you do business with, everyone who thinks you're upstanding citizens, knows exactly what kind of people you really are. I will destroy the reputation you care so much about. My mother's face had gone from pale to a livid crimson. You wouldn't dare. Try me, I said coldly. I have nothing left to lose. You already took everything from me once. I rebuilt without you. I don't need your money or your approval. But I'll be damned if I let you steal from me and pretend to be proud parents while doing it. Cassandra finally found her voice, a shaky whisper. This is insane. You show up here after 5 years and threaten us? I didn't threaten you, I corrected. I offered you a choice. Sign over what's rightfully mine, or face the consequences of your actions. It's really quite simple. Jordan checked his watch. The lawyer is waiting. Athena, we should go. Let them think about their options overnight. I looked at my family one last time. My mother was crying now, careful tears that didn't ruin her perfect makeup. My father looked furious, but utterly trapped. Cassandra just looked stunned, her perfect graduation party reduced to a public spectacle. Congratulations on your graduation, Cassandra, I said, a faint, almost imperceptible smile touching my lips. I hope it was everything you dreamed of. Then I turned and walked towards the exit, Jordan right beside me, leaving my family standing in the middle of their horrified guests, their perfect world utterly shattered. The lawyer, Marcus, was waiting in the lobby as promised. He was in his 40s, sharp-eyed and professional. Jordan had worked with him before, so I trusted him implicitly. Athena, Marcus greeted me with a firm handshake. Jordan filled me in on the basics. This is quite a situation. That's one way to put it, I said, still trembling from the confrontation. We moved to a quiet corner of the lobby. Marcus pulled out a legal pad and started taking notes. I told him everything, the disowning 5 years ago, the endless lies my family had been spreading, the overheard phone conversation about the trust fund, the recording I'd made. Do you have documentation of the trust fund? Marcus asked. I have copies of the original documents my grandmother's lawyer sent me years ago, I confirmed. I never accessed the money because I wanted to prove I could make it on my own, but I kept all the paperwork. Marcus nodded approvingly. Good. That'll help. And you have this recording? I played it for him. Cassandra's voice came through clearly, chillingly, discussing with my mother how they planned to claim I'd forfeited the trust fund due to dropping out and losing contact. Marcus listened intently, making notes. When it finished, he looked up, his expression grim. This is excellent evidence of intent to defraud. Combined with their public lies tonight and witness testimony about their treatment of you, we have a very strong case. What happens now? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Now we move quickly, Marcus said decisively. Tomorrow morning, I'll send a formal letter to your parents, demanding a meeting. I'll outline what we know and what we're prepared to do if they don't cooperate. Given that their reputation is clearly paramount to them, and given that several respected people witnessed tonight's confrontation, I believe they'll agree to our terms. And the trust fund? Based on what you've told me, your grandmothers will have no conditions about education or contact with family. The money is yours, regardless of whether you graduated college or stayed in touch with your parents. Any attempt to claim otherwise is fraud. They know this, which is why they were planning to do it quietly, rather than going through proper legal channels. A wave of profound relief washed over me. So, I can actually get the money? You can and you will, Marcus confirmed. But, Athena, I need to ask, what do you want beyond the money? Do you want to pursue criminal charges for the attempted fraud? Do you want to sue for emotional damages? Do you want to go public with their treatment of you? I considered this carefully. A part of me, the raw, wounded part, wanted to burn their lives to the ground the way they'd tried to burn mine. But another part, a stronger, calmer part, just wanted to be free of them completely. I want my money, I said finally. I want them to sign legal documents stating they have no claim to it and will never contact me again. And I want them to stop lying about me. They don't get to use my success to make themselves look good anymore. Marcus nodded. That's reasonable and entirely achievable. I'll draw up the documents tonight and have them ready for tomorrow's meeting. Jordan put his hand on my shoulder. You did good in there. I know that couldn't have been easy. It was terrifying, I admitted, a shaky laugh escaping me, but also necessary. I've been running from them for 5 years. Tonight, I finally stopped running. We spent another 30 minutes with Marcus, going over details and strategy. By the time we finished, it was nearly 10 o'clock. The party was probably winding down now. I wondered what my family was telling their remaining guests. As if reading my mind, Jordan's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen, then showed it to me. It was a text from Professor Howard. Just wanted you to know that several people came up to me after you left asking about your agency. I gave them your contact information. I think tonight might end up being good for business, ironically enough. I had to laugh. My family's desperate attempt to maintain their perfect image had spectacularly backfired. Not only had I exposed their lies, but I'd also potentially gained new clients in the process. Come on, Jordan said, a grin on his face. Let's get you home. You've had enough drama for one night. He drove me back to my apartment, a comfortable one-bedroom in a nice neighborhood, a space I'd worked so incredibly hard to afford. As I unlocked the door and stepped inside, the familiar space felt like a sanctuary. Thank you for coming tonight, I said to Jordan, my voice thick with emotion. I don't know what I would have done without you there. That's what partners are for, he said with a smile. Besides, I wouldn't have missed seeing you take down your terrible family for anything. It was epic. After Jordan left, I changed into comfortable clothes and made myself a cup of tea. I sat on my couch, just looking around at the life I'd built. Every piece of furniture, every decoration, every comfort, I had earned it. Through my own sweat and struggle. My family had given me nothing, and I owed them nothing. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. For a moment, my heart leaped, thinking it was one of them. But when I opened it, it was Dr. Gregory. After tonight's revelations, I want you to know that my offer for the medical school project still stands. In fact, I'm more impressed than ever by what you've accomplished. Let's schedule that meeting for next week. You've earned this opportunity. I smiled. A genuine smile. I typed back a response, confirming my availability. The meeting with my parents and their lawyer happened 3 days later in Marcus's office. I sat beside Marcus on one side of the sleek conference table. My parents, Cassandra, and their attorney sat opposite us. The tension in that room was thick enough to cut with a knife. Their lawyer, an older man named Donald, immediately tried to take control. My clients are willing to discuss a settlement regarding the trust fund, but they want assurances that this matter will remain private. Marcus didn't even blink. His voice was cold, sharp. Your clients attempted to defraud my client out of money that legally belongs to her. They have no leverage here. We're not negotiating. We're informing them of what will happen. He slid copies of documents across the table. These are the terms. First, you will provide complete access to the trust fund established by Athena's grandmother. Second, you will sign a legal document stating you have no claim to that money, now or ever. Third, you will cease all contact with Athena unless she initiates it. Fourth, you will immediately stop using her name, her success, or any reference to her in your social or professional circles. My father started to speak, but Marcus held up a hand. I'm not finished. If you fail to comply with any of these terms, we will pursue criminal fraud charges. We will also provide copies of the recording and witness statements from the graduation party to your colleagues, friends, and business associates. The choice is yours. Donald looked at the documents, then at my parents. My mother was crying again. Real tears this time. My father looked utterly defeated. Cassandra stared fixedly at the table, refusing to meet my eyes. This is extortion, Donald said weakly. No, Marcus corrected, his voice resonating with quiet authority. This is justice. Your clients can sign these papers and move on with their lives, minus the money they tried to steal and the daughter they tried to exploit. Or they can refuse, and we'll make sure everyone knows exactly what they did. Their reputation will be destroyed, and they'll still lose the trust fund case in court. This way, at least, they can maintain some dignity. There was a long, heavy silence. Finally, my father spoke, his voice hoarse. How much is in the trust fund? That's none of your concern anymore, Marcus said. But for the record, it's enough that Athena will be quite comfortable. More than comfortable, actually. My mother looked at me then, truly looked at me. How can you do this to your own family? You stopped being my family 5 years ago. I met her gaze steadily, when you threw me out. I'm just making sure you can't hurt me anymore. We made mistakes, she said desperately. But we're still your parents. Doesn't that mean anything? It used to, I said quietly. It used to mean everything. But you taught me that love is conditional. That I'm only worth caring about if I meet your standards. That my pain and struggles don't matter if they're inconvenient for you. You taught me those lessons very well. Cassandra finally spoke, her voice small, almost broken. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said those things on the phone. You're not sorry you said them, I corrected her, my voice gentle but firm. You're sorry I heard them and recorded them. There's a difference. Marcus tapped the documents. We need an answer. Sign, or we proceed with public disclosure and legal action. Donald whispered something to my parents. They had a brief, heated discussion in low voices. Finally, my father picked up the pen. This isn't over, he muttered as he signed. Yes, it is, I replied, a profound sense of calm washing over me. This is exactly as over as it gets. One by one, they signed the documents. My mother, my father, even Cassandra, who had been listed as a secondary beneficiary in some of the original paperwork. Each signature felt like a weight lifting off my shoulders. When it was done, Marcus collected the signed papers and made copies for everyone. You'll receive notification when the trust fund transfer is complete, he stated. I expect that will happen within the week. My parents stood to leave. My mother paused at the door, looking back at me one last time. I hope you'll be happy, she said, and for a fleeting moment, she almost sounded sincere. I already am, I said, a soft smile. I have been for a while now. I just had to learn to find it without you. The trust fund transfer was completed 5 days later. The amount was substantial, far more than I'd expected. My grandmother had invested wisely, and the fund had grown significantly. Combined with my business income, I was genuinely wealthy now. But the money wasn't what mattered most. What truly mattered was that I'd faced the people who had hurt me, and I'd refused to let them control my narrative ever again. I'd exposed their lies, protected my own interests, and cut them out of my life permanently. The medical school contract came through the following week. Dr. Gregory made a point of telling me the project was mine based on merit, not pity or drama. My agency's work truly spoke for itself. My parents, on the other hand, never recovered their reputation in their social circle. Word spread like wildfire about what had happened at Cassandra's graduation party. Their friends quietly distanced themselves, unwilling to associate with people who had treated their own daughter so cruelly. My father's business suffered as partners quietly ended their relationships. My mother withdrew from her social clubs, unable to face the judgment. Cassandra eventually completed her medical degree, but struggled to find a good residency placement. The recordings and witness statements had made their way through the medical community, and her ethics were questioned. She eventually moved to another state, trying to start fresh, where no one knew her story. They had built their entire lives on appearances and reputation, and when those crumbled, they had absolutely nothing left to stand on. As for me, 6 months later, I stood in my expanded office space, watching my team work on projects that would have seemed impossible just a year ago. The success felt real now. Earned. Unshakable. I learned that you don't need your family's approval to build a meaningful life. Sometimes, the family you deserve is the one you create for yourself. And sometimes, the best revenge isn't destruction at all. It's simply becoming so successful, so happy, so free, that their opinions no longer matter. I walked away from them at that graduation party, and I've never looked back. That was the moment I truly won. Have you ever had to stand up to family in a way you never thought you could? Or build a life from scratch when everyone doubted you? Share your story in the comments below. I'd love to hear it.